Okay, now we're ready to lay out our fabric. Okay, so you can see that I've got my pattern piece laid out on my fabric that I've already folded in half. If you're working with 60-inch wide fabric, all the sizes will fit across the fabric that's folded in half. The exceptions would be if you're working with a 54-inch wide fabric and you have a large or a wider selvage, it may not fit. Or some knits may come even in a more narrow width. If that's the case, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to purchase two lengths of whatever style leg you're making. You need two lengths of that. So probably 3/4 of a yard. You need it probably about 1.5 yards for the capri length, plus whatever the double width of your waistband is. So keep that in mind. Before I talk about positioning the pattern piece straight on the grain, I want to talk about folding your fabric in half. When you fold your fabric in half, depending on where you purchase it and who cuts it, the cut edges might not line up with each other when you fold it in half because it might be cut a little bit off grain. What you want to look for is on your folded edge, you want to make sure that it's laying nice and smooth down the length of the fold, and you want to note that the selvage edges are actually laying right even with each other. Okay, so my selvage edges are even and I don't have any wrinkling on the fold. If you fold your fabric in half and you've got these diagonal wrinkles sort of going along the fold, that means it's folded in half, but let's say the top layer is pulled slightly this way or that way, and that can happen if you try to line up the cut edges, which really aren't on grain. So it's more important that the folded edge is nice and straight and that the selvage edges are nice and even with each other, okay, when you fold your fabric in half. Then when you have that, like this, so it looks like this, the next step is to lay your pattern piece so it's on grain. And it's very easy to do. We want to make sure that this printed grain line is parallel to our selvage edges. Or if you're working on the other side, it would be parallel to the fold. Either way will work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up at the top here. I can use the edges on my ruler to really make this easy. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a line down here and make sure it's laying exactly on my selvage. Then I can see up here, how the edge of the ruler is crooked compared to my grain line. That means I have to straighten my grain line out by pulling it like this. Okay, so see how I've straightened that out now? So now the grain line is straight with the top of my ruler, which is straight with the bottom edge over here. So that means the top portion of my pattern is on grain. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here, and just for safety, I'm going to just put a pin in the top of my grain line like this. Just sort of pin it to the board underneath. And let's check this side. All right, you can see that this is also 11 inches. Okay, so it's the same distance, and it's still straight with the edge of my ruler here and here. So I know that my pattern piece is positioned on this fabric on grain. If you measure the bottom portion, and let's say it kind of looks like this, you know, you can see that you need to change it. I would need to slide it closer so it is exactly 11 inches. Okay, so that's how you get your grain line to agree with your selvage edge. All right, so like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the cool thing about this project is these yoga pants go together so quickly. So I'm going to cut this out using a rotary cutter. Well, actually, you know what I'll do? I'll show you two ways to cut it out. So I'll cut half of it out with the rotary cutter, and then I'll show you how to use scissors to cut out the other half. All right, so let me just start with, I'm going to use my ruler here because I know this is a straight line. I'm just going to cut this out first. I'm going to do this side over here with the rotary cutter. I'm just going to cut right along the edge of my pattern. I'm going to cut this. And actually, I should have scooted this up. I'm wasting 3 inches of fabric over here. So, you know, if you've got, if you keep your pieces close to the edges, you'll have bigger scraps to work with later on another project. So really here I wasted fabric. I just want to make a note of that. All right, so now I'm going to get my scissors. All right, so if you don't have a rotary cutter, you can do it with scissors just as nicely. What you want to do when you're cutting with scissors is you want to keep the lower blade sliding on the table. So you never want to pick it up and cut like this. You want to slide and close, kind of like that. Okay, so that's my example of cutting air. All right, so let's do the fabric now. Okay, so see, I'm taking as big of a bite as I can, and I'm just sliding along the bottom of my scissors onto my cutting board or my table, and I'm just cutting as I go, like that. Notice I'm not bobbing my scissors up and down, I'm just very carefully sliding and cutting. Okay, and then I'm just going to do this area, same way. Okay, see how nice that looks? And then I'm just going to cut across here and we'll be ready to start putting these together. All right, let's take the weights off and the pattern off and let's see how our edges look. We can compare our rotary cutter to our scissors. All right, so you can see, if you look closely, you can see that my scissor edges look almost as smooth as if I had cut them with a rotary cutter. All right, so if you're new to garment sewing and this is one of your first projects and you have your pair of, fabric scissors and that's new to you, maybe just take some scraps and practice, because it really is possible to get amazingly smooth cut edges. Okay, and remember, I'm just going to show you one more time. The trick is to cut and slide like that. Okay? See how I'm not lifting the bottom blade off? All right, and you end up with this really nice smooth edge. All right, so that's how you cut out the legs. All right, so join me in the next video and I will show you how to construct the leg portion of the yoga pants.